Hello, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday. I want to wish all of you mothers who might be watching a very happy Mother's Day weekend as well. My name is Julie. This is Stamp with Julie Baum. And as on most Simply Saturdays, I'm going to show you a card that is fast and easy to make. Now, what happened is I started playing with these papers called Everyday Happiness. Now, in this packet of paper, there are only 4 designs. They are double-sided, so you have 8 prints, but you get more of each design. Typically, you only get 2 of each design in a packet of paper. In this one, you get 4 sheets of each of the designs. That was very helpful because when I am planning my stamp club projects, I typically need a lot of designer series paper. And so I purchased this. I've been looking at it, kind of falling in love with it in the background, but hadn't used it until I started prepping for Stamp Club in May. So anyhow, that is coming up and I will be using these papers, but today I'm going to show you a fast and easy card featuring these papers that I have fallen in love with. Now let me mention that the paper does say that these coordinate with very vanilla. All of the designer series paper tends to either have a white background or a vanilla background. And when you look at the paper itself, the information that's included, you'll see on this one, well, let me pull this out. All right, so this is Everyday Happiness, and you'll see here all of the colors that are included in the paper. I usually take a Sharpie and write them just because it's larger and I can read it at a glance, but they're all listed right here, and this one says Very Vanilla. Other paper packets would say Basic White. So with that said, I knew that we were going to be leaning more towards vanilla, but I realized that I had bought some basic beige cardstock, which was newish sometime last year, and haven't really used it. So my card base today is basic beige. So it really is a nice color. It's a little bit hard to describe. It's not the same as vanilla, and it's not as golden, not nearly as golden as wild wheat has been, although wild wheat is on its way out. We are using wild wheat ink today. So I wanted to show this to you and explain that it is a basic beige cardstock base. All right, so we're also going to be using some Lost Lagoon and some Pretty Peacock. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to do was have my designer series paper nice and neat laid out on the front of the card like so. Now, if you've done these types of cards before where you have lots of little pieces of paper and you really want them lined up and you want them straight, I have struggled a little bit. I mean, it's always very good to do a dry fit. So you do that first. And then typically I would leave 3 of the pieces in place, pick one up, add the glue, stick it on, right? It's kind of how we do it. But still things kind of shift and sometimes aren't as stable as I would want them. So today I'm going to try something new. We'll see if it is a little trick that is worth doing or not. We'll decide at the end. So I'm taking some of my artist tape. This is low tack tape that I buy on Amazon. I use this when I'm using my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and I want to tape my die down to the paper so that it doesn't shift. Post-it tape and Post-its themselves are also excellent uses, but the amount that we use, and especially when I'm teaching classes and club, we would go through a ton of Post-its and it's not very cost effective. So this low tack artist tape has become a favorite. Okay, that said, I'm just going to make some little loops and put it on the back of each piece of paper. I can tell that you already know where I'm going with this. Then we're going to do our dry fit, sticking our little strips down. And I still think that this is going to result in a fast card. even though we're taking a tiny bit of time to do this, I think in the long run, it's going to be faster than our papers potentially shifting around and causing frustration. Okay, so now I'm going to do my dry fit just with that little bit of low tack artist tape. So I'm going to put the first one in place. See, then we'll be able to move these if we need to without disrupting the whole design. I don't have to worry about them slipping or sliding off of my card while I'm doing my dry fit. Okay, so far, this is working well. This little guy, he doesn't want to stick. All right, let's get number 3 in place and our last one. Okay, I did not do too poorly of a job on my dry fit. I feel like the spacing is very good. And now is when this is going to pay off. So this is the one that wants to slip. So I'm going to leave 3 of them in place. I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. Take that little piece of tape off, and using my adhesive, go ahead and add it to the card. All right, so the basic idea is getting your 4 strips glued on to the front of the card base in a straight and equally spaced distance. All right, there's that one. Let's go with this one next. I love this little tape method because those are staying in place. They're not falling off. And so I think in the long run, this is still completely qualifying as a fast and easy card. That little trick is just helping us along the way. All right, there's my second piece. Let's get the third one in place. The colors that are in this paper include gray granite, wild wheat, Lost Lagoon, and pretty peacock. There's also mossy meadow. And let's see, are there any other colors in this? The vanilla, like I mentioned. Because wild wheat, the in color, has now, at the time of this airing, cycled out. It's not considered current. There may still be some on the last chance list. I haven't looked. But I am using the ink color today. I did not have any of the cardstock left anyhow. Okay, I really like how this looks on our basic beige cardstock. It's such a beautiful neutral. Okay, all of our papers are in place. That little tape trick was well worth the couple of moments that it took to help assist in our dry fit. All right, now the other thing I'll mention is besides the basic beige that I chose, besides the vanilla and the golden wild wheat color, I really think that white goes with this too. And so I like the white and the off-white, and I even in clothing, I like those together. So we're gonna do it on our card. So I pre-punched using Heartfelt Hexagon Punch a white piece, and then I also pre-punched a piece out of Pretty Peacock. Now you'll notice that this has some texture. We're gonna talk about that, but we're gonna wait till the end. Let me do my stamping on here to begin with, and I'm using the thank you stamp from With You in Mind. Wild wheat was not one of my favorite colors, but I am telling you that with this paper, it is really beautiful. So I know it's at the tail end of its time with us, but I'm happy to be using it and showing you how good it looks with this Everyday Happiness paper. Okay, now I'm just going to use this. They're the same size because they were punched out, and I'm just going to glue it to it kind of staggered like that, just to create a tiny bit of a background. So I'm just going to bring it to the right and down about like that. Glue that into place. And then, oh, you know what I was going to do? I was going to add one more image. Maybe it's not too late. Let's try it. I'm going to use Lost Lagoon and I'm going to stamp it off so I get a very, very light version of it. I would not typically stamp on something that's attached to something else, especially something with texture, but let's take a big risk and go for it. All right, so this little leaf, I feel like kind of mimics that stem. So I'm going to stamp it off. Let's see what the second one is going to look like. Yes, very, very pale. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so stamp this off on my scratch paper and then on, I was just thinking about it right in the middle. I'm going to go for it. Hooray! Okay, we didn't mess anything up, and that was a little bit risky. Now let's flip it over, add some dimensionals to the back of this, and then we'll come back and talk about texture on our die cut. All right, so I'm going to use 4 of these, and this one is crisscrossing over the peacock cardstock and the white one, so that's also going to help ensure that it doesn't slide, even though we glued it to it. All right, this is going to go on the front, and as I am doing that, I'm thinking that I want to grab some linen thread to go with this. All right, that's in place. Let me grab my linen thread. And we can get this wrapped up. I'm going to make a very simple little bow. A lot of times when your linen thread comes on a spool like this, it's very springy from being wrapped so tight. So I just pull it between my thumbnail and my finger to pull some of those kinks out, and it usually straightens it out quite a bit. Okay, that's going to be better. So I'm going to tie a bow. You could also just do a knot if you are not in the mood to tie a bow, or if you feel like you're a little bit bow challenged. All right, there's my bow. I need a pair of scissors. Here's my snips. And then let's attach this with a simple little glue dot. Because this is so tiny, rather than sticking it onto the glue dot, instead I'm going to go ahead and use my take your pick tool and pull a dot off of the backing paper, and then even kind of roll it into a little tiny ball, because this linen thread knot in the center is tiny, and we have to decide, is it going to actually go on the tag or right here underneath? Several places look good. I think I'll just go ahead and put it right down here. Now, if I was moving that around, if you thought I should have put it in a different spot, then just leave a comment and let me know that you would have put it on the tag or here. I love to hear your comments. Okay, I'm pressing that down into the glue dot so it's nice and stuck on there quite well. And then let's take a look at the inside and see if it requires anything. I don't think it does. I think that it is light enough that a white panel is not required. You certainly could add one if you like. I'm just going to stick with the idea of that leafy stamp. And I'm going to put one on the inside that is right from the ink pad, so full strength. And I'm going to stamp it a second time right by it without re-inking. So I've got a dark and a light. And there you have it. I think that is enough. It's understated and it's quite nice. All right, now let's talk about the texture that is on here. We do have a new embossing folder that is a corrugated texture. We've had ways of corrugating things in the past. We used, many years ago, we had a little handheld tool. If you remember that, you tucked your paper in it and cranked it, and then it made it look corrugated. Now we have this embossing folder, but I'm going to show you a way to do it without even having to buy another item. You're just going to use your Simply Scored tool. So I'm going to bring that in. I have a small scrap of pretty peacock cardstock. It just needs to be large enough to accommodate the punch that you're going to use, and so this it'll accommodate my heartfelt hexagon. I'm just going to stick it here. It doesn't even matter where, as long as it's up tight against this stopper fence. And then using the small end of my stylus, I am going to just score on every single line going all the way across. So this is scoring at every, we have 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, half, which is 4/8, half, 5/8, 6/8, or 3/4, 7/8, and then the inch. So these score lines are every 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just going line by line, and you can see that yummy texture that this is creating. And I did not need to use a special tool because I already have this tool for scoring so many other things. Now, when you get to the other side, you're going to have a choice to make. You either have to flip your paper around. I'm kind of on a roll, so I'm just going to hold it here, and I'm going to cross my hand over and hope that I can still do this without jumping the track. Looks like I need one more. That last one is going to be right on the edge of the paper, so it's not going to really do anything. Now you take that really cool texture that you just created and stick it inside your punch. You could also do this with a die. And that is how I got that yummy texture on my small punched piece. All right, let's go back for a final look at that card, which came together quickly and easily, and I really love the Everyday Happiness paper. I hope that you do too. Thanks for watching and have a lovely day. Until next time, happy stamping.